Well, the basis of the values and principles of sustainability is found in the Earth Charter. It's a declaration for a just, sustainable, peaceful global society. Now, the Earth Charter came out of the unfinished business of the Rio Earth Summit, and that's why it's important today, because we're going back to Rio 20 years later, and this is some of the business that came out of that. And that was a need to define the relationship of mankind, humankind, with the earth. It's interesting because the other great charters we have are the charters of the United Nations that define the relationship of state with state. The second major charter has been the definition of relationship of the state with individual, and that was the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. The third great charter is now the Earth Charter. That defines our relationship. And it's the values and principles, and it highlights the understanding of the interconnectedness and the interdependence of justice, peace and sustainability. So if you want a pathway to sustainability, you must have peace. If you want a pathway to sustainability, you must have economic and social justice. In other words, you actually do away with poverty, eliminate poverty, and then you will also get the impact of having a sustainable environment when you have those other factors involved. So that's the importance, interdependence and interconnectedness of the environment with justice and with peace. Well, in Queensland we are basically providing a lot of resources, especially in the areas of education and environmental education, to indicate the basic values to change human behaviour. And that's what it's all about. We've got to get away from consumption to an understanding that human development is about being more, not having more. And until we get that appreciation, understanding of that, we will not have a sustainable world. And until we have a world that is at peace, we won't have a sustainable world. And if we don't have justice for all, and that means economic justice, that means we eliminate poverty. Unless we have these things with democracy, we won't have a sustainable world. So we've got to have all these together, and I've got to say, it's not easy. If it was easy, it would have been done yesterday. But peace is hard work, sustainability is hard work, and providing social justice and democracy is hard work. But if we're all going down the same path, we can get to that pathway of sustainability.
Andrew, the best thing I can do is to quote Paul Ehrlich, who said, whatever your cause, it's a lost cause if we don't stop population growth. There are a lot of things that can add up to contribute to sustainability, but there are only two factors that multiply everything, and that's our per capita impact and our population. So everything else that we can do is made more effective if we stop population growth. Everything else we can do is ultimately futile if we don't.
And you're speaking about this today, just quickly. I mean, what will be your key messages today in your presentation? I mean, is that what you're going to be saying, or are there other key messages as well?
I will be explaining a little bit about the cost of population growth, because I think Australians have been bombarded by a lot of misinformation about the need for population growth for our prosperity, and it is all derived from self-interest of big business and the property sector in particular, and the costs of population growth far outweigh the benefits, and they are much more costly than demographic ageing, which everybody seems to be afraid of. Andrew, achieving population stabilisation in Australia would be very easy and very cost effective. Our population growth is driven largely by immigration and also by bribes, basically, to families to have more children. And once people realise that these things are not really helping them, then those policies will change very quickly. They've changed very quickly just in the last 6 years. We've doubled our population growth rate. We can reverse those policies and get towards stabilisation very quickly. By doing it, we actually help other countries to address their own population issues rather than relieving other countries by allowing a lot of people to come forward. Because there are 80 million extra people added to the planet every year, and we take a fraction of 1% of those as immigrants. We can do far more by helping people in their own countries to deal with their own population issues and give them the ability to control births that they actually want, and that they're not being given support from the developed world in terms of funding for family planning programs.
What would be your final comment, Jane, your final message, what something to take with us, in terms of this film, the day, trying to promote sustainability? One sort of thing that sums up your whole position on this, or how you see population fitting into the bigger picture of sustainability generally? And using a loud voice.
Ask yourself, what investment will give the best dividend towards a sustainable future? If we break the taboo about family planning and achieve rapid fertility reduction in Africa and the Middle East and the Pacific, that'll be 2 billion fewer mouths to feed by 2050, and it will simultaneously reduce carbon emissions. It will take the pressure off forests and fisheries. It will reduce mortality of infants and mothers. It will reduce HIV/AIDS, war, refugee flows, unemployment and poverty. That's a pretty good return for a very modest investment.
Thank you very much. Better let you go to your next presentation.
Yeah, Friends of Felton's a community group, and we formed a bit over 3 years ago to oppose a proposed open-cut coal mine and petrochemical plant at Felton. It's 30 k's roughly southwest of Toowoomba. It's a very fertile farming area, very productive food-producing area, and the proposal that we're objecting to is a plan for an open-cut coal mine and a petrochemical plant to convert coal into petrol. So it's a very polluting operation, huge water consumption and massive CO2 emissions. The company's own figures show it would produce 5 times as much carbon dioxide as it would fuel. So it's really horrendous from its environmental impact. So we obviously don't want that to go ahead. And as part of our campaign, we've looked at the potential for renewable energy at Felton as an alternative to coal mining. And we employed a consultant to see what resources we had, and the results are very encouraging. We've got significant sites for wind generation. We've also got tremendous levels of solar irradiation, as the whole of Queensland has. Obviously, we've got more sun here than the south of Spain, so surely we can have renewable energy, solar and wind, which can coexist with existing food production, and it won't wreck the environment, create lots of new jobs that wouldn't displace existing jobs. It just seems like such a common sense plan.
Is that plan, I did see that at one stage, but I mean, is it going too far to say that Felton could become self-sufficient? I mean, irrespective of this wider issue, what that plan demonstrated is you have the natural resources to actually become self-sufficient in energy.
We would be much more than self-sufficient. There's roughly 4,000 people live within 10 kilometres of the proposed coal mining site. The plan we have for renewable energy would generate over 700 megawatts of power, and that's enough to power 160,000 homes. So we would be a significant exporter of energy. And we feel this is a model which could be used in other very productive food-producing areas, because the whole of the Darling Downs is under significant threat from coal mining, and both coal mining and coal seam gas. It seems crazy when we've got so little good food-producing land in Australia that we should be considering digging it up for mining and gas.
Just quickly, I mean, there are other speakers here today, a guy from Beyond Zero Emissions, I mean, that have shown, Australia-wide that it's possible, even with existing alternative technology, for instance, to power up Australia. using alternatives. What's, and there's the sort of optimism, there's the strength going forward. What's the actual downside? I mean, what do you think is stopping this, and what is going to be the constraints that actually stops? I mean, in other words, the technical argument's been made, it seems to me. What stops this stuff coming ahead much more quickly?
Well, the downside is the profits of the massive polluting companies, the massive coal and gas companies. They're making huge profits by digging up coal and gas and mostly exporting it. They're making huge profits, and they've got enormous political influence. Their donations fuel political parties' campaigns on both sides of politics. So that's the downside. That's why there's a resistance in Australia to make use of the tremendous natural resources that we've got. And it seems crazy that, take the Barrier Reef, the Great Barrier Reef. It's one of the 7 wonders of the natural world. Scientists are saying we've only got a few years to cut global emissions, or it'll be gone. How can the Australian government sit there and contemplate just digging up more and more coal, knowing full well that the Barrier Reef's on the line? It's bonkers.
So, Rob, what would be your sum-up message? I mean, you've given us some very clear sort of perspectives there. In a few sentences, what would be your sum-up message for your issue and how it links to sustainability more widely?
Well, the summing up message would be that there's a massive crisis. We need to step in very quickly now to protect our food-producing areas, and we need to protect our natural wonders like the Barrier Reef. And there's a battle going on between common sense and vested interests. So my call-out message would be to anyone that's interested in common sense to get on board and make a lot of noise.